All right, this is another episode of Humble Conversations. I am Dr. James Knight, and I have here Robert Montague. I hope I said that correctly.
Perfect.
All
You
right.
can call me Rob.
Rob is the CEO of Licking Memorial Hospital and just a much larger system.
Correct.
And I've come to learn from some of the people around you how much Licking Memorial Hospital has grown and expanded. You say you've been in healthcare 33 years?
33 years in senior management. I actually got my start as a file clerk. So technically, if you count those
Wow.
years as a file clerk, I'm sneaking up closer to 40.
If a person came to you and said, what are some of the things you've learned in your journey about leadership? You know, if I'm young and I want to be an effective leader, how would you speak to that?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. And it's such a broad question.
It's a loaded question.
But a good question. At my high school graduation, a local pastor said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it was important for me to understand that no matter how good my grades were or what my IQ was, if people didn't think that I cared about them as employees, as family members, as a community, it was going to be hard to be an impactful leader.
This episode is brought to you by Linking Memorial Health Systems.
All right, this is another episode of Humble Conversations. I am Dr. James Knight, and I have here Robert Montague. I hope I said that correctly.
Perfect.
All
You
right.
can call me Rob.
So Rob is the CEO of Licking Memorial Hospital and just a much larger system.
Correct.
And I've come to learn from some of the people around you how much Licking Memorial Hospital has grown and expanded. And I'll give you an opportunity to talk about that.
Okay.
But just from our conversation prior to recording, you say you've been in healthcare 33 years?
33 years in senior management. I actually got my start as a file clerk. So technically, if you count those
Wow.
years as a file clerk, I'm sneaking up closer to 40. But I
Wow.
started really at the very entry level position, filing paper charts as I was going to college and graduate school, and now have been in senior leadership for 33 plus years.
Wow. What kept you in healthcare so long?
Well, it's interesting. I really enjoy serving the community and making a difference. And when I was graduating from Wittenberg with my accounting and business degree, I was thinking of law school. And my brother, who was also in healthcare, said, we need some better leadership in the healthcare industry. What would you think about healthcare administration? And as they say, the rest is history. I've never wavered from healthcare because I love the fact that we are serving the needs of everybody in our community, because at some point, everybody needs assistance with their health, their wellness, their mental health, their physical health. This gives me that opportunity every day.
Yeah, that's good. What's been some new things that you've been percolating on your mind in terms of just the next 5-10 years of healthcare and just kind of some of the things that you want to do at Licking Memorial Hospital?
So I think the biggest focus we've had recently, and you've seen this trend throughout the country, but I think we've really embraced it and maybe been at the forefront, is what we call social determinants of health.
Yeah.
If you look in most communities, there is a significant difference in life expectancy within a very short distance of geographic residences. So in our community, as an example, just 7 miles apart, you have a life expectancy variation of 10 or 12 years. And we understand that it's not the clinical healthcare, because they're all getting great care here at Licking Memorial. It's adequate transportation, access to that healthcare, access to healthy food, fruits, vegetables, the ability to be active and exercise. And so trying to diminish that variation in life expectancy outside of the clinical care is something we spent a lot of time in the last few years. Just to give you a couple of quick examples, really, we were the catalyst as an organization to restart the public busing and public transportation in our community, which created so much access for folks who either couldn't afford cars or didn't drive. We have the largest distribution site for the Licking County Food Pantry Network that we work with them,
Mm-hmm.
but we see over 700 families a week go through this location in one of our buildings with our volunteers. And so, really actively participating in these social determinants, I think, is the future of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hopefully we will continue to be at the forefront.
That's good. So let me say this. I go travel across the country and I get to talk to a lot of leaders. I get to talk to a lot of people around leaders. The people around you have nothing but praise to say about you. And I didn't try to get that out or solicit it. It just organically came out where they just spoke about the humility, the empathy, the compassion. Where does that come from?
Well, there was one leader who did not agree with me, and I fired him. And no, I'm kidding. Probably some humor. Hopefully
Right, right.
that lightens it to some
Yeah.
degree. That's very humbling to hear that. I think something that's important is I started as a file clerk, so I've worked at a lot of different levels
Yeah.
within the organization. Um, I don't appreciate any task any more or less than the others, and I'm willing
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that just for effect.
Right.
If we need to put chairs away after
Right.
an event, we put chairs away. If we need
Yeah.
to, and I hope that others see that. And I
Mhm.
think those that speak highly of me have that same
Mhm.
approach. And
Yeah.
so I could say the same thing about
Mhm.
them. They are selfless. They do the work that needs to be done. They don't look for acknowledgement.
Mhm.
I know your son is a great basketball player,
Mhm.
but John Wooden was known to sweep his own basketball floor even after he'd won many national championships at UCLA.
Yeah.
I think trying to exhibit that behavior, rewarding that behavior
Mhm.
through promotions, through acknowledgement,
Mhm.
um, but doing it out of sincerity and not for effect, not
Yeah.
trying to be probably the word I get question, what word would describe you? And I think authentic is the best.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the same way I was as a file clerk, as an accountant, as
Yeah.
a director, but I'm the same sense of humor,
Yeah.
hopefully same approachability,
Yeah.
and perhaps that maybe
Yeah.
lends itself to that
Yeah.
relationship building.
That's a good way to that's a good way to answer that. I read somewhere before it says when you're humble, you don't need a mask.
Mm,
And I think it's speaking to the authenticity that you're speaking about, that people who tend to measure high in humility, if they're not like overly like promoting self and they have a nice little balance of where the ego should be.
mm.
Do you think you had like models? I'm always curious when I get a chance to sit down and talk to like really successful leaders. Like what was the trigger? Like what was it that said, you know what, this is a better way to lead, this idea around servant leadership, putting people first. At what point did that like click for you?
Yeah, I'll answer that a couple of different ways. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I have to give my parents a lot of credit. I grew
Yeah.
up, my father worked multiple jobs to help me, my brothers and sisters
Mhm.
get through school. My mom, very hardworking. So it was instilled at an early age. Our community has tremendous philanthropic service-minded leaders. I hate to not name all of them because I
Mhm.
will miss some, but certainly some of the
Mhm.
more recent, I worked with Sarah Wallace quite a bit,
Mhm.
tremendous leader, Jerry McLean, Dan DeLauder. I know I'm forgetting some, and I can
Mhm.
feel Veronica's eyes right
Mhm.
now on me. So I was able to learn at a young age by working in this community how I should really think about serving, giving back. Um, to make the community better. So I learned uh, quite a bit at that point. And then I would say I never saw myself uh, going down a path to try and achieve a title, an award, but to truly do something that made Licking County better, this organization better. Um, And to be quite honest, it's because I received my health care here, my
Mhm.
parents, my family, my
Mhm.
friends, and I wanted this organization to be able to provide that for everybody in our community. And I
Yeah.
also recognize the cascading effect that with a strong healthcare system, it really raises everything in the community. Uh,
Mhm.
People want to come here to live because we have great healthcare. Businesses want to locate here.
Mhm.
The school systems have support. So it's that symbiotic relationship that
Mhm.
a great healthcare system, I think, when they say a rising
Tide lifts,
tide
yeah,
lifts,
all ships
and
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 stuff.
I, hopefully we're a part of that tide.
That's good. So, where did you learn the importance of, as a hospital, that we could partner with other community agencies and organizations to really shift and tackle those social determinants? Like, when did that get on your radar? Because I notice some leaders are going that direction. Some, you know, they don't think about it. But
So we've, I think, always as an organization been
yeah,
focused. So I don't
yeah,
deserve all the credit.
yeah.
We've always done a lot in the community for 130 plus years. I think being involved in the community, living and having grown up in the community, I went to school with friends who drive trucks, who weld,
Mhm.
who are real estate agents, who are doctors, who are lawyers. And that cross section of all individuals, I think, inspired me to make sure we meet the needs
Mhm.
of everyone.
Mhm.
Then volunteering in so many organizations, which was certainly encouraged by the organization, but through my upbringing. So being on a Salvation Army board, a Big Brothers Big Sisters board, um, gave me a greater sense that we organizationally needed to do work to help make this community better.
Mhm.
We talked about faith before we
Mhm.
started this. I've been blessed in so many ways.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't even see it as an option. It
Yeah.
really is an obligation that God has given me some
Yeah.
abilities and has given me a lot of blessings.
Yeah.
And it would be irresponsible for me not to use those in a way that makes
Yeah.
others better, the community better,
Yeah.
and to help others.
That's good. Yeah. Um, I'm reminded of that. I think it's a scripture where it says, "To whom much is given, much is required," and that's what you're speaking to. Um, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast. It's called Humble Conversations, because as I was traveling and working with organizations on how to have a much healthier culture, I I felt like there wasn't enough humility
Mhm.
and empathy. And so sometimes you could talk about stuff so much and not actually do what you can.
Mhm.
And so this was birthed out of the idea that is so much noise on the internet and social media that's not healthy, that's not adding value. So this podcast, exists to be able to provide value for leaders, young aspiring leaders who one day will want to be in your shoes, to just
Mhm.
kind of know, like, you know, what is leadership and how do you approach it? If a person came to you and said, what are some of the things you've learned in your journey about leadership? If I'm young and I want to be an effective leader, how would you speak to that?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. And it's
Hmm.
such a broad
It's a
question, but
loaded
but a
question.
good question. At my high school graduation, a local pastor said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care."
Yeah.
And so he took that from somebody else. So
Hmm.
whoever gets credit for that quote,
Yeah.
but obviously it's stuck with me for now 40 years. And it was important for me to understand that no matter how good my grades were or what my IQ was, if people didn't think that I cared about them as employees, as
Hmm.
family members, as a community, it was going to be hard to be an impactful leader.
Yeah.
If they perceive that I was in it for
Yeah.
me and what I'm all about, and I'm the
Yeah.
smartest person in the room. I think I've also said to you something I would like to get credit for. I don't think I've heard anybody else say this, but uh, I say all the time, if you have to lead with your credentials, you don't have the credentials to lead.
Mm.
Um, to try and have people follow you or perceive you as a leader because of degrees,
Mm-hmm.
grade point averages,
Mm-hmm.
awards, to me is not the
Leadership.
way to lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's to lead by example for them
Mm-hmm.
to understand what your intent is, and hopefully it's coming from the heart that you're trying to do
Mm-hmm.
the right things and the good things, and you're doing that through your actions. That is the leadership that I
Mm-hmm.
try and embody, and that's what I would tell folks. A lot of the younger leaders, I would also be very, I guess, adamant about be patient.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of folks, maybe they
Mm-hmm.
do see the social media, the TikTok, and
Mm-hmm.
they want to be accomplished at age
They
28,
got this microwave
29 or whatever.
mentality. Yeah.
Um, I think there is some experience and some wisdom that comes through lessons learned and through putting the work and the time and the sweat equity in,
Yeah.
um, that evolves into leadership. I,
Yeah.
I I don't think it just happens
Yeah.
right away.
That's good. We had did a show with Dr. Kim Bias. He's been in healthcare over 50 years, but this guy looks like he's 45 years old, right? And he's like almost 80 years old.
So what are you going to say about me?
I'm not gonna say anything. But one of the things he had said is he's been studying leadership for all these years, and he saw that there are these two ingredients. I want to get your take on this that he hadn't noticed. He said most successful leaders have someone in their life, like a mentor in some capacity. And the other thing that he noticed is that they have the ability to regulate like their emotions, that ability to be able to stay calm under pressure. And he talked about, just the whole Hudson pilot situation and dealing with those situations that, when you're faced with that good leadership somehow knows how to rise when everything seems crazy and noisy, but leaders know how to be composed, with that and know how to kind of, maintain their emotions so it doesn't get the best of them. So they're not reacting so much.
Sure. So my two comments to that,
Yeah.
I really had a kaleidoscope of mentors,
Yeah.
and I know there are folks who have a single
Yeah.
mentor,
Yeah.
um, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not that it wasn't for me, I guess I would
Mm-hmm.
say, but I don't subscribe to I needed a single mentor and I
Yeah.
had to emulate that individual. I took pieces and parts from some of the outstanding leaders
Mm-hmm.
in our community. Even my
Mm-hmm.
predecessor here had some great skill with vision, and but there were other things that probably
Mm-hmm.
I would do differently. So I
Yeah.
really, like I said, a
Yeah.
kaleidoscope is how I would describe how I approach the mentorship. In terms of the being calm under pressure, I heard another speaker talk about the one common trait in most leaders, more than grade point average, school attended, is they played high end athletics. So I'm a
Interesting.
big proponent of
Mm.
that because I think that teaches you that.
Yeah.
Those free throws,
Mm-hmm.
that one and one,
When you down
uh,
1 point.
yeah, which I made the first, missed the second, but we won in overtime. So it worked
Right.
out. But,
Right. Right.
you know, playing football back in the pocket,
Yeah.
baseball, bottom of the
Yeah.
ninth, bottom of this. I think you do learn how to manage your
Mm-hmm.
emotions and handle pressure and deal with it
Yeah.
and not project it onto other people. Um, I play for my senior leadership once in a while. If I think, we're in a stressful spot, I like to refer to movie clips because I think they do a
Mm-hmm.
good job sort of saying what I want to say. And there's the scene from Old School where Will Ferrell, after he tumbles through the fire ring and catches on
Mm-hmm.
fire, and he's telling everybody to be calm, but he's
Mm-hmm.
doing it in a very
Yeah.
stressed out manner.
Yeah.
Um, that clearly is what we don't want to do. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sometimes showing the antithesis of what you want. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think the sports was helpful in
Mm-hmm.
maintaining that calm. Um, I I think I do a reasonably good job of that. I don't usually get too high or too
Mm-hmm.
low.
Yeah.
And I think that has value for sure.
That's good. I like what you said about the kaleidoscope because I think that's probably more realistic for a lot of people.
Mm.
Is that you're probably picking from different people. There's so many people that have had a part to play.
Sure.
on your journey.
And it really builds into what you've
Hmm.
talked about with our leadership team. I can take characteristics from individuals that have lived completely different lifestyles, whether
Yeah,
that's based on race, religion,
yeah,
upbringing. And so I might have a very closed minded sense of I need to have a mentor
yeah,
that had similar background, upbringing to me,
yeah.
when really it's good to expose
Mhm.
myself to some variation.
Yeah, that's good. It reminded me, I was watching this interview. I was interviewing this guy. He was like, man, he's a multi-millionaire. He was real successful. Like, how did you do it? And he was like, well, I'm great at copying. And so
Yeah,
sometimes everybody always feels the pressure like they have to create the next best thing. But there's so many people that have done a lot of research, done a lot of work, and they figured out how to do something really well. And if you can learn how to be the biggest student
hmm,
and copy it, put it in practice, and then you learn how to adjust and
sure,
pivot as necessary, you could be really successful. And so I think, going back to the humility component, I think successful leadership is about being sometimes the biggest student in the whole
absolutely,
organization.
absolutely, and recognizing that you can learn from anyone.
You got
I
it.
talk about
Yeah.
that. We had our new employee orientation, and I just talk about the fact that somebody that has experiences that are different than mine, I can learn from. They can learn from me.
Yeah.
I can't fix a car. I can't,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I can't do very well. And so I
Yeah.
have to be humble enough to know that I can learn from others. And
Yeah.
hopefully they look at me and say, maybe I can learn something from him.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Once you think you know it all,
You're in
that's,
trouble.
yeah, that's a bad place.
That's true. That's true. That's part of the reason. Um, so I stumbled upon this whole thing around humility, and in one of my roles, I was vice president at a private school
Mhm,
in Cleveland, and we had experienced this big demographic shift. We had people come from all different ethnicities, racial backgrounds,
mhm,
socioeconomic backgrounds. And we're trying to figure out like how we're going to get to this outcome so we all can play together, right? And get along and be respectful of each other. But when you start talking about some really tough subjects, people can get defensive.
sure.
And so I had stumbled upon this research around cultural humility
Mhm,
that originated in healthcare. There was a different way to approach having conversations with healthcare professionals on how they would serve the community.
mhm,
And their framework was shifting from saying, you know what, instead of us checking the box, we know about Latinos and we kind of read all the research, it was shifting to say, hey, every person is unique in their upbringing, in their culture.
yes.
Let's be the biggest student and be curious and ask them to teach us. And so when I shifted that and started talking more about that, it was amazing how people open up to
Yes.
have these difficult conversations.
Yes. Well, you know that
You've done
we have purchased your book. We're big believers, and we
this is true.
subscribe to that
Yeah,
because of the way you describe it. It's certainly non-threatening. It's
yeah,
learning and educational, and it's coming from the right perspective. And I you
yeah.
talk about coming from the heart,
Oh yeah.
um, to learn.
Hmm.
And in our community, it's not that diverse in some
Yeah,
ways, but it is very diverse in other ways in
yeah,
terms of socioeconomic status,
yeah,
religion, maybe not as much with race, um, but everybody has different backgrounds.
yeah.
Um, I'm a Michigan fan and I live here,
Oh
so I
really?
mean,
Stop the
people
podcast.
accept that. In spite of that, I've gotten over that hurdle, and I say
Yeah,
that obviously tongue in cheek, but
yeah,
the ability to be empathetic and curious
yeah,
and sincere, I
yeah,
think really makes a difference in that educational learning
yeah.
pursuit.
I love that, Rob. How would you, if I were to ask you, how would you define humble leadership? What what does humble leadership mean to you if I were to throw humble in front of leadership?
It, I guess fundamentally, just not wanting credit
Hmm.
for doing the right thing and getting good results.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to win awards or get acknowledged. And I know a lot of people are like me. I'm not
Yeah.
unique in that respect.
Yeah.
But I also recognize at times it's good for the organization if
Hmm.
I receive an award
Yeah.
that allows the spotlight to be on the organization. So there has to be some level of that. But the humble part of leadership is we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Whether I get the credit, Veronica gets credit,
That's right.
Cindy gets credit, we're all working together.
Hmm.
It's not about the credit, it's about the result.
Yeah.
I do think it's important as a leader, and this is maybe the inverse, but
Yeah.
as the leader to take the responsibility.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if something doesn't go well,
Don't be blaming. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're the head coach on the football team and Jared Goff turns it over
Yeah.
5 times in the game, humble leadership, in my mind, requires you to say, I should have done something better,
Yeah.
not to say, well, if my quarterback would have played better, if that vice
Yeah.
president would have done the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of both sides of the
Hmm.
equation.
Hmm.
And I think there are a lot of leaders that get the humble part right on they do disperse credit, but when things go wrong, and it maybe gets to that being sort of level headed in times of stress and all that, but to take the
Hmm.
responsibility as a leader, whether that's
Yeah.
fair or unfair.
All right. Now let's go. It's getting a little interesting, and the reason why, because you have my mind going in the sense of you're this young leader and you're hearing about this humility and that you got to add value to people. Like you can't be self-serving, but yet you have all this noise around you saying you got to be a go-getter. You got to promote. You got to promote yourself to some degree if you're gonna move up in an organization or a corporation, whatever it might be. Like you got to have a little bit of that initiative and take charge somewhat. But yet there's this balance that you're trying to balance too at the same time where you also want to be serving and adding value to others and stuff. How would you speak to that?
To me, it's not all that opposing in terms of the
Yeah.
motivation. If
Yeah.
the motivation is correct, it
Hmm.
can serve both needs.
Okay.
Trying to do a great job here when I was a younger leader as a
Mhm.
director and the desire to be promoted and maybe be a CEO or in leadership, if it was only about me and me getting the title and me getting more money and me getting public regard,
Mhm.
then that's the wrong motivation. But I looked at it from the perspective of I think I can help the organization be successful, which will help the community. I definitely get some benefit. I'm not going to,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
but that was really more the motivation,
Yeah.
and it still is.
Yeah.
Even as I'm getting closer to the end of my career than the
Yeah.
beginning. My goal is to prepare some of the other younger leaders
Mhm.
so that they're able to continue on with what
Mhm.
I've established so that this organization and this community have this tremendous healthcare asset.
Yeah.
So I think if your motivation is is correct,
Yeah.
they don't have to be
Don't have
opposing
to
one
be.
or the other.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people though. I hear you. I hear you, Rob. I think.
Well, look at sports. I think of sports a
Yeah.
lot of times. One of my favorite all-time basketball players, I really can't believe I'm saying
Michael
this
Jordan?
because he went to Michigan State, was Magic Johnson, even though
Yeah.
I'm in Michigan.
Yeah.
Um, but he's but he really made the assist
Yeah.
become more popular, but he scored
Yeah.
and he rebounded. He did a lot of different
Yeah.
things. So by being a good team player and not
Yeah.
just promoting himself, he made everybody better. And I think that's what I would aspire to be,
Yeah.
not just someone who
Yeah.
scores
40,
60,
50
70 points a
points.
game or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's all about me. So
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I think it's an important conversation because I think when you live in a world of social media, TikTok, and you always having to take selfies of yourself, right? And you're always trying to push yourself out there. Sometimes I think the younger generation, sometimes you're trying to balance it and figure out like because there's that level of sometimes concern where if I do what's good, are people going to take advantage of me? Like what like if I do it for the good of the team, you know, somebody is just out there for self and they're going to try to take it and so forth. So I try to tell people this is where faith comes in at.
Mhm.
Like, this is where your faith serves you. That if you're doing it for the betterment of others, that life will reward you. That people will see it.
Yeah, I would say this. There
Yeah.
are probably times that you've been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
There are times that I've been taken advantage of,
Yep.
and it doesn't feel great.
Yep.
But I just remind myself that the good that hopefully I do by allowing myself to be taken advantage of outweighs the sting of that.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm not a saint. In the moment,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
frustrating
Yeah.
if a family member or someone takes advantage of you, a friend,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but doing the right thing over time will outweigh that. So
That's
you
it.
just have to sort of remind yourself of that and move on and not send
That's
them a
it.
holiday card.
But I think that's really what I want people to hear. Is I think it's important for those people that are watching that may not be as accomplished, that's trying to figure it out, to trust the process, like you talked about earlier, in this episode. But to know that um, what you put out there will come back to you if you do it with the right heart, in the right spirit. You know. So I like how you said that.
And I mentioned to you
Yeah.
the first time I interviewed for the CEO position,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Talk about
I,
that.
I,
Yeah.
di- I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't get it, and I totally understood. But the CEO was a couple years out from retirement, and they had a search process, and I thought our board did a great
Mhm.
job, and there was someone that actually had more experience, and they hired him. I stayed on as the chief financial officer, and I think it was a great learning lesson, a great opportunity for me to use with others. That I didn't pout, I didn't leave the organization, I just went back, uh, did my job, did it well. Things didn't work out for the candidate that was chosen, and then I
Yeah.
got my opportunity. So it's never a smooth road. I always see
Yeah.
for any leader, there's bumps, there's obstacles.
Yeah.
Just keep going after it.
Yeah. That's why you are where you are, man. It speaks a lot to who you are. So at Lincoln Memorial, I know you emphasize putting people first,
Mhm.
whether it be staff, the community, patients. How do you practically cultivate a culture where every job matters?
Once again, I have the benefit of having started at $3.80 an hour as a file clerk. I just told a story. I'll just be brief, but I
Mhm.
told it to the new orientees. I talk to every new employee that comes here. I speak to them during orientation to talk
Yeah.
about our culture
Yeah.
because that's more important to me than
Yeah.
their credentials.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I tell is there was a new CEO at NASA, and he went to a control room, and there was an employee from NASA cleaning the control room. And he said to the employee, "Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the new CEO. What do you do here?" The employee said, "Haven't you heard? We're launching a rocket tomorrow." And I tell that story, and I love that story
Mhm.
because I explained to all of our employees that that employee understood it took everybody at NASA to get that rocket into space.
Mhm.
Even though the CEO or the astronauts get credit more than the person cleaning the control room, it takes everybody. And it's
Mhm.
the same thing here.
Mhm.
If we don't have great support staff, obviously clinical staff, IT staff, financial, we
Mhm.
can't be successful. So I truly believe that. I lived it starting
Yeah.
here. And so I do truly appreciate 2,600 employees doing his or her best at whatever they do.
Yeah. That was good, man. In times of stress, such as emergencies, resource constraints, or organizational change, how do you or your leadership team lean into humility and empathy rather than just efficiency or pressure?
Once again, I think it's through your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I say, so a lot of sayings, hopefully they're not cliches, but people judge you by your actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions.
That's right.
So during those very stressful times, your actions really speak the loudest. So I'll use COVID as an example.
Yeah.
To me, it was very important that during COVID, I came to work every day. I'm not being critical of my peers, but a lot of administrative folks at other
Mm-hmm.
healthcare facilities work remotely, work from
Mm-hmm.
home. not judging them, but for me, I thought it was important
Yeah.
that during those stressful times, if our nurses, our doctors, our therapists were going to be exposed to a higher level of COVID than the average person by taking care, I needed to be here.
Yeah.
I was here literally on Christmas Day. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back.
Hmm.
I was here on Christmas Day during COVID because we had vaccine and we're giving
Yeah.
uh, immunizations. And I thought if
Yeah.
we have folks working, I need to be there
Yeah.
because they're there.
Yeah.
I think the actions
Yeah.
really speak loudly during those stressful times,
Yeah.
more than the platitudes and the comments,
Yeah.
and definitely not worrying about efficiency and financial ramifications in
Hmm.
the midst of some of that crisis.
That's good. That's good. I wanted to ask you earlier, how do you think being the CFO added value when you had to transition to the CEO? Like, I'm pretty sure that would helped a lot, right?
Yeah, there's no question, but I think everybody that would become a CEO would have a weakness,
Yeah.
and they need to
Okay.
acknowledge it, address it, embrace it, and attack it.
Okay.
Um, that's a lot of words, and I never really just sort of wrote that out. But
But it makes sense though. I get what you're saying though.
if
Yeah.
you're a chief nursing officer and you ascend to the CEO position, there are strengths that you know a lot of clinical
Yeah.
information, but you don't have the financial background. If you come up as a physician, whatever the case may be. So I had some advantages because of that CFO background, because I understood the finances.
Hmm.
But I really had to gain the trust and immerse myself in a lot of clinical terminology, clinical understanding of service lines,
Hmm.
empathy for the challenges
Yeah.
of the clinical folks. So I don't think there's one path for any CEO, and to really have an understanding that you have holes in your game
Yeah.
and you need to put the work and the time to fill
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
is important.
That's good. How important is culture? It got to be important if you, as a CEO, makes time. You make time to talk to every employee. I believe it says 2,600. Did you see that somewhere, or it was just, it was just like, hey, I just think it's culture is that important.
Yeah, it's that important. It's the most important thing to me.
Hmm.
When I became CEO, I went and visited every single department in person and
Hmm.
talked to every employee that was here. And as you said, since then I've talked to every new employee
Hmm.
during orientation.
Yeah.
I literally have missed one orientation, I believe, and it's the one time I had COVID, and so I could. But we had a tape and we played it or a
Yeah.
video. Um, to me, it's by far the most important thing. I
Yeah.
would much rather, and that's why we promote internally far more than we would ever hire management and leaders from the outside.
Yeah.
It's more important for a leader to align with my ideas, thoughts, beliefs, culture I'm trying to
Hmm.
create
Yeah.
than to have a degree from Harvard
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
MIT.
Yeah.
And so speaking to the employees on their first day of employment and then speaking to them at a number of other events throughout their careers about our culture and what we're doing is by far the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as important as the speaking gets back to the actions matching the intentions.
Yeah.
I can speak about it, but if the employees perceive that I'm hypocritical
Yeah.
and I talk about all this stuff, but I don't
Yeah.
follow through on my own behaviors, it really erodes that culture. But I think we've built a good one. And I say we because I have a lot of great senior leaders who've
Yeah.
been with me for
Yeah.
20, 30 years and
Yeah.
they do a tremendous job. So it's not
That's
a
good.
me
Yeah.
thing, it's a we thing. But
Yeah. I love that. If I were to talk about balance, where does your mind go? Because I know I hear a lot about.
I'm an
Um,
accountant that goes to is it above zero and are we making money? So the balance has to be above zero, but I know where
right,
you're going.
right, yeah, yeah. Talk about that because sometimes you you could be so passionate at the work that you do, and you're just going and going and going. But it's been a lot of talk lately about how leaders have to get rest and try to create some type of balance. Is balance even possible? I hear people say that in order to be like really great, good luck with balance. It's always going to be a moving target kind of thing. It looks different in different seasons.
This is a tough one for me to answer
Yeah,
because I feel like I've struck a good balance, but I don't know that I have a prescription that will
for sure.
fit everybody.
Yeah,
Hopefully, you would talk to my wife and kids, and
yeah,
they would say he was at our events, he was at our
yeah,
sporting events, he coached a
yeah.
lot of our teams, he was at our gymnastics events, he was here for holidays, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I exercise, take care of myself. I feel
Yeah,
that's important to do
yeah,
because if I'm not, well, they say in pro sports, the best ability is availability. If
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
able to be here, I'm sick, I'm injured, I'm not, that's not good for the organization either. So I really try and make sure I focus on getting my exercise in for my stress and for my health,
yeah.
um, and really balance all of it. Uh, I don't know. I have a lot of energy. I think I'm fairly efficient with my time,
Mhm.
but I don't take a lot of vacation,
Yeah,
but I'm able to clear my mind other ways. Now,
yeah.
most people wouldn't think this is a vacation, but I coach high school football,
Yep.
and so for a couple hours a day during that time of the year, I'm immersed in the football and I enjoy it. And I'm with some of these kids who need some guidance and need some role models, and that sort of clears the
Mhm.
mind, and I can get back into it. So I don't need to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, and that's not
Yeah,
my way
yeah,
of balancing. Now we go to Disney. I like going to Disney, and our family goes. And so, but I do think it's important to recognize that you need that, to recognize if you're starting to go over the edge or whatever,
yeah,
and get burnout. But I think I've been able to do it. I don't know that I could really give
yeah.
specific advice. Everybody's a little different.
No, you did a good job, because it is different, but I think, your person I respect. I think a lot of people respect you, and I think your perspective means something.
Yeah.
So the way you answered it, you did a good job. What As you were talking, what's your passion in this season? Has your passion changed? You've been in leadership a long time. Is your passion have you found that your passion has shifted based on the season?
It really hasn't.
Yeah.
My passion has been to keep this organization a vibrant, independent community hospital
Yeah.
because of the reasons I described.
Yeah.
Now, the way that we are able to do that has changed from,
Yeah.
maybe 30 years ago when I started, or 20 years ago as CEO. It was more
Yeah.
focused on maybe bringing up the reputation or the perceived
Mhm.
reputation through some of the
Mhm.
marketing and public relations. And that's where
Mhm.
Veronica was so helpful and critical.
Mhm.
Then we went through a phase. Technology adoption was so important with
Mhm.
electronic health records. And I
Mhm.
mentioned now we're more social determinants of health. So I
Mhm.
think the the way to achieve my ultimate passion and goal has changed,
Yeah.
but my passion and my mission and my drive has always been about independence, community hospital, serving its community, having it available
Yeah.
for my friends and family who live here.
That's good. Do you have a dream?
Do you want a real dream, or do you want to? I've always either wanted to be a game show host or in a boy band. So if they ever do another Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, I think I'm the guy. I can sing. My dancing is marginal. I do like game shows, and I think I would be a very good host of a game show. So, absent those sort of whimsical, no, I mean I don't want to sound like I can't remember what movie. I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
This is what I love to do.
Yeah.
I have a great family.
Yeah.
Uh, they're doing well. I work with great people.
Yeah.
Love what I'm doing here. I do think your question is good though.
Yeah.
Um, I've never been one to look for the greener pasture, the next
Yeah.
best thing. And I
Yeah.
often get that question.
Yeah.
Why have you been at Licking for 33 years? Why,
Yeah.
why not go to a bigger health system?
Yeah.
I've never been motivated, getting back
Yeah.
to hopefully humble leadership.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to be at a bigger hospital. I want to have a bigger salary. I
Yeah.
want to be more well known in a bigger city. That's
Yeah.
never been motivating to me. So
Yeah.
in terms of professional and personal,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very happy, and my dream is to continue to see this be an independent community hospital well after I retire, and
Yeah.
well into the future.
Yeah.
That's my dream.
That's good. Yeah. I was speaking about it in that sense, more like, Dr. King's dream,
Mhm.
when you think about being a leader in this community, in this county, and talking about the social determinants of health, you know, I can imagine that, there are things that you think about, when you're there, like, man, how could we, you know, these kids are miles apart, and the life expectancy, the graduation rate,
Mhm.
all these different things and so forth. Um, to me, I think your dream is a healed and healthy community.
Yep. I would say that for sure. And,
Yeah,
one of the greatest compliments I get in the community are when former employees still call me sir
yeah,
and former players still call me coach. To
yeah,
me, those are the ultimate signs of respect. And I don't aspire or expect that necessarily.
yeah,
Doesn't mean if they don't, I'm
yeah,
insulted. But,
yeah,
when I coached a young man and, 8, 10 years later, he's married and has a
yeah,
family and is doing well, and he still
yeah,
calls me coach, or somebody who worked here 20 or 30 years sees me and thank you, sir, for the
yeah.
gift card. I think that's
That's
very
good.
meaningful to me.
As I'm reflecting, as we're wrapping this up, you said something earlier, just that authenticity is the word you use. And I think that's really powerful because when you do get into a role like yours, there's tremendous expectation and there's also temptation
Hmm.
to say we're gonna go on this trend or we're gonna do this because such and such in Columbus at Cleveland Clinic or whatever it is. And um, to me, as I learn more about you, Rob, I sense this self awareness that you have and that you're okay with that. Like when you said, I don't have to go to Hawaii. Hey, my place of peace is giving back, coaching the local football team.
Yeah, I mean, even the self-awareness to know that I'm not a great dancer, but I
Yeah,
could be in a boy band maybe if we lip synced. But no, I think the self-awareness and the authenticity
yeah,
is, um, I think it would take so much more energy
yeah,
to try and live a dual life or a dual
yeah,
personality.
yeah,
I think it would just be more taxing than just being yourself and dealing with it.
yeah,
And once again, always have the motivation be for the right reason. Your point is very
yeah,
important in healthcare.
yeah.
For many years, a lot of my peers would pursue providing a service
Mhm.
because it made money,
Yeah,
but they didn't really think about, is this a service our community needs? Is this
mm,
even a service we can do at a very high level? Maybe we don't
yeah,
have enough population to support it.
yeah,
And I would just suggest that if you look at things with the right mindset and intent, and your motivation is pure,
yeah.
you're going to get good results. And I think that's what I've tried to do.
That's good. So last question, then we're gonna pull out these cards
All
and
right.
wrap up there. Looking back, what are some of your proudest cultural wins at Lincoln
Yeah, I
Memorial?
think we've really talked about a lot of them, so it's a little
Yeah.
bit redundant, but
Okay.
it is, never focusing on a particular class
Yeah.
of individual. Early in my career, I literally had to go to Columbus to testify about some of our physician practices
Yeah.
because the suspicion was that we were employing physicians to place them in more affluent areas to get better paying patients to come to our
Mhm.
facility,
Yeah.
when in fact the opposite was true.
Mm.
One of our first, if not the first, physician practice was in the lowest socioeconomic area of our entire county.
Mm.
And I just bring that up
Yeah.
because starting with that, in terms
Yeah.
of physician practices, making access available to everybody,
Yeah.
social services, um, transportation,
Yeah.
all of it sort of, those are all big wins for me.
Yeah.
I would love it where someday, maybe when I retire, or maybe after I'm retired,
Yeah.
they say it doesn't matter if you live in Utica,
Yeah.
Summit Station,
Yeah.
Hebron, everybody has a
Yeah.
similar life expectancy,
Yeah.
access not only to healthcare, but other services
Yeah.
like food, transportation. That would be
Education.
great.
Yeah. That's good.
Licking Memorial Health Systems is the primary healthcare provider for Licking County. Most of our employees live in the community and have the unique opportunity to care for their family, friends, and neighbors. They have developed a strong dedication and commitment to our mission of improving the health of the community. In return, we show our deep gratitude to our staff through memorable events, recognition programs, fun activities, and special awards throughout the year.
Well, so these are humble conversations. I
Okay.
created this as a way to get people talking more to help promote that positive culture that
Okay.
we talk about, right? Because culture is so important, and that's how I help a lot of organizations. So you choose any one of those cards you want to ask me, and I'm gonna choose a good question that I think might be a good one to ask you. Um, so I found one.
Okay.
So the quote on the card is start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That's by Arthur Ashe.
Hmm.
The question is, what's a skill you'll like to develop or improve?
Hmm. You're always taught to answer those in an interview. I would like to be less perfect and driven. I'm thinking through all those. Um, um, uh, I would like to have more patience,
Okay.
but I also think not being patient has been very instrumental in some of our successes. We
Yeah.
are, as an organization, I am as a person, a doer,
Yeah.
and we get things done. And
Yeah.
so that I think has been a catalyst to our success. But at the same time, I recognize there are times you have to be a little more methodical and things may take a little more time
Hmm.
to accomplish. So, achieving a little more patience in that regard is probably helpful, but I'm not suggesting that I would give it all back either. So,
I got you.
I'm looking over at Veronica. Hopefully, she could say yes or no. So, all right. The quote is Dr. Sylvia Rom. Collaboration is the fuel of innovation. We talked about
Yeah.
collaboration. So, how can we encourage a mindset of continuous improvement? And I would add my own little through collaboration, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Um, I think it starts with leadership. I'm a big John Maxwell like
Yeah.
guru. You
Mhm.
like John
Yep, I
Maxwell, his
do.
books and
Mhm.
stuff. And he defines leadership as influence. And he talks about the five levels of leadership. At the lowest level of leadership is when you're given a title,
Right.
but it's not really leadership. Like people only listen to you because they have to.
Yes.
But you start moving up this leadership pyramid where people start following you because of what you do for them, and you start adding value. And so I believe that when leaders get clear about where they're going and the things they value, and they're willing to do what is best, like for the culture, and not just chasing the next best thing that generates
Mhm.
money, it's that long-term aspect that I think you provide a space where it makes it easier for people
Sure.
to collaborate. Because I think you can't have true collaboration if you don't build a safe space where people can really be honest
Yes.
and authentic. And so I think the more that organizations focus on all those things, so like, are we creating a culture where people feel respected, they feel valued, they feel supported, and we are a learning organization that we do set aside resources for people to learn,
Sure.
to improve themselves. And then we also create space. I was reading some research. They said that one of the issues, a lot of organizations operate off a traditional model, and you spoke about that earlier, where we're going to reward the person who got the most sales. So we reward people based on their individual achievements.
Mhm.
So it continues to promote me within a culture.
Sure.
And so they said we have to look at these other models to where the team gets the award.
Mhm.
So now people are incentivized to work together because we got a different rubric in place. So the rubric is not based on how much I could do as an individual, but the rubric is based on what we can do together. And so if we think about different ways to measure and to communicate, we can shift, kind of that narrative and what people expect.
Yeah, and using the sports analogy, so I was fortunate to play on the 1988 championship basketball team in high
Mhm.
school. We, I believe, were the only, and maybe still are the only schools who have gone undefeated in league play.
Here in Ohio.
In our LCL, Licking County
Oh,
League.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
here in
yeah.
Ohio, just
Yeah.
Licking Valley High School.
Yeah.
I played my best friend, all-state
Yeah.
basketball player.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. He was way, way better than me. But we had a really good team. And I
Yeah.
tell the players I coach now, while they still, certainly if we go back for reunions or they have the plaque on the wall, they mention
Mhm.
him. But the number of people that will say, oh, you were a part of that 1988 team that went undefeated. Very
Mm.
few say, oh, you were the individual on that team that
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
most assists or the most
Yeah.
rebounds or scored 22 points in this game. And I try and make that connection for the athletes I coach,
Yeah.
hopefully for the folks that work here.
Yeah.
Very few people, especially 10, 15, 20 years, remember that. Even
That's
the
a good point.
Patriots, people remember Tom Brady, sure,
Yeah.
but you hear a lot more people say those Patriot dynasties, those 7 championships, the Patriots, the team. And that's really what people remember more than that individual.
That's good.
It's
That's-
fleeting.
That's good, man. That's a good word. Well, you guys have we hope this has been a blessing to you. This is another episode of Humble Conversations, and we're down here and in Licking County, and we're interviewing a great leader, and we hope this episode add tremendous value to you.
Well, I appreciate your leadership and all that you've done for
Appreciate it.
us. My pleasure to
Absolutely.
be on this podcast. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Humble Conversations with Dr. James Knight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you more great content. See you next time.